What is going on, everybody? We are going to be talking about variations in this video. And for this video, we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to move over to this New Balance shoe and this Nike shoe so we can look at kind of two different items here that are going to have variations and kind of really dig down into how to use the variations tool inside of Keepa so that we can make really, really good sourcing decisions. Now, I want to show you guys a couple of things. Number one, this particular shoe, this dad shoe, one of two dad shoes that we'll use as an example here. This one's ranked 306 in clothing, shoes, and jewelry. And this one is ranked 7,970 in clothing, shoes, and jewelry. So these are both really, really fast movers. The mechanics of looking at what variations sell the best are going to be the same, whether these items sell incredibly fast, like this shoe, like the Nike shoe, or if they sell slower, okay? So it'll look the same. The numbers will just be a little bit different. Now, how do you find the variations information? Of course, you can use a tool like RevSeller, like SellerAmp, but we want to be able to use Keepa. And what we're going to do is we're going to go past the data section over into the variations section of the Keepa graph. And here, it's going to let us know all of the data about every single one of these variations, of these child ASINs, if you call them that. So, first thing that we can do with variations is we can include international Amazon prices if we want to. I typically turn that off because I don't do international flips or anything like that, but it is a metric that is available if you want to be able to use that. Maybe flipping something from Amazon over to another marketplace might work for you. The next thing we can do is we can configure the columns. Now, I have just about everything turned on except for this Amazon column, but you can turn that on if you want to, and that's going to show the Amazon price if it's available, and then you can make this any way you want. So I show the ASIN, I show the color, the EAN, image, I show just about everything. I do turn off used and used offer count, but I like to be able to see everything else, okay? I'm gonna remove that international price there. I don't wanna see that. You can also export this data. So you can see here that there are 519 rows of variations on this particular listing. Now, that seems like a ton, and you're right, it is. It's a lot, but you have to remember that every single color and size is a different variation, a different child listing. So, for example, the white navy in 10.5 wide is going to be one child. The white navy in 10.5 is going to be another. White navy 10.5 narrow is going to be yet another. Okay, so even though this is one particular item, every single color, every single size is going to have a different variation. And like I said, you can export this data if you want to. If you export it, you can choose if you want to export all active columns, that's going to be all of the information that you see. Or you could export just the ASINs if you wanted to take this out and do some sourcing with something like tactical arbitrage. You can export this into an Excel or a CSV file, whatever's going to work best for you. If you're going to upload this to a Google Sheet, I would suggest a CSV. Just makes it a little bit easier, cleaner, but the XL/SX format will work. And if you click export, it'll take it over and put it into a file for you. Like I said, we can see how many different variations there are. There's 519 rows. We can also open this in the product viewer. And if we want to do this, what this is going to do is it's going to open up all of these inside the product viewer on Keepa so that you can see it in a bit of a larger format. It'll be laid out a little bit larger. You'll be able to see all the data that was for these listings. You're going to be able to see a ton of stuff. This will take a moment to load, so we're not going to wait for it because you're not going to spend your time in the product viewer usually. You're usually going to be looking at variations right here. The next thing we can do is we can look at the graph range by 7 days, 30, 90, 180, the year, or the entire time. Okay, I typically do 90 days. I think that's plenty to be able to get a good idea of what is selling and what is not. Now, let's talk about what data you can see here. First of all, you can see Amazon. Amazon's at $59.98. If we click on this title, it's going to open up this particular shoe, and we can see, sure enough, Amazon is on this particular listing. They're the one selling it. Okay, don't usually get these bot checks, so now, we can also see in the variations tab, we also get to see an image of the item. This way we can see if there's a different color or something like that. And you can see right here, this is black on black. So we get to see a picture of that particular variation. Then we get to see the title. The title on most of these should be exactly the same, other than the color and the size. We get to see the new price. Then we have the variation attributes, and I like to see this just so I can make sure that they match. Sure enough, the color is white navy, the size is 10.5 wide. We get to see the color here, white navy, the size 10.5 wide, and then comes the ratings. Now, what are ratings? Ratings are going to be people who just leave a star review. They don't actually write anything out. They just say, you know, oh yeah, I bought this. This is a 5-star product. This is a 3-star product. It's a 1-star product. The number of ratings is going to usually correlate with the number of reviews. However, since Amazon removed the ability or added the ability to be able to just leave a rating without leaving a written review, sometimes these will go up much, much faster than the number of reviews. But you can kind of see they sort of track along the same, the same growth up and to the right. Okay, you can see here that there are 1,431 reviews. That is ratings. That is 2% of the ratings go to this particular shoe. And what we can take from this is, out of all of the shoes that are sold on this particular listing, about 2% of them are probably going to this white navy 10.5 wide. Okay. On the actual graph here, we can hover over and we can see exactly how many reviews were on this particular listing at a particular date. Okay, so we can see that 3 months ago, there are around 1,276, and currently there are around 1,428. That's a really good growth rate of the number of reviews just for this particular child ASIN. And then we can see the actual number of reviews here. So we've got 222 total reviews. And then we have a review chart. So we can see there were 207. Now there are 222 reviews. So it goes up at a much slower clip. But you can see there's a little bit of parity here between these lines. Okay. Next, we can see the ASIN. So that is the Amazon Standard Identification Number for this particular child variation. Then we can see the EAN if it's available and the UPC if it's available. We can see the new offer count for this particular variation. So there's 7 new offers on all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, on these top 4, 6 on number 5, and then back to 7 and 4, and going to be all over the place. But it'll let you know how many new sellers are on each variation. And then we can see how long this has been tracking. So this particular variation has been tracked for 1,437 days. Now, what's the information that you need to take out of this? Well, the biggest information, in my opinion, is going to be looking at the number of ratings and the number of reviews. You want to make sure that these do look similar. I know the reviews are going to go up much slower, but you want to make sure that it's actually matching up a little bit. All right. And the next thing you're going to want to do to be able to choose which one of these variations is actually worth selling is by looking at these reviews and ratings and figuring out which ones sell really well. You can see here that the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the top 11 all have around 2%. Okay. So if this shoe sells, excuse me, if this shoe sells 1,000 times per month, and it probably sells more, but let's just imagine that this shoe sells around 1,000 times per month, the top 11 shoes each have 2% of the sales. That's going to be 22% of the sales go to the top 11 shoes. So out of 1,000, around 220 per month or so is going to be to these top 11 shoes. And it seems pretty evenly out here, okay? And then we go to the 11 extra wide, and it's got about 1%. So about 1% of those 1,000 sales should go to this particular shoe, all right? And you can just go down through and make sure that these are actually correct, okay? We could even extrapolate this information and say, okay, well, let's see how many reviews this particular shoe has over the last 3 months. And we can use our math from the other videos about how many sell using reviews and say, okay, well, this might sell 1,000 times per month. And then we can multiply that by what the ratings are on this particular shoe, or on this particular variation, to be able to figure out about how many shoes could sell and which ones we might want to go after. Now, the other thing that you should think about when you're selling variations is not that you need to focus on the top 1 or 2 or 3 shoes, but you can go down depending on speed, and you might be able to find some shoes that sell even better for you, at least, because they have fewer sellers on it. Maybe they don't sell as many as the most popular variation. However, if we look at, if we look at this particular item right here, this one has 4 sellers. It gets 1% of the reviews. It looks like a less popular color and size, 13 extra wide, black on black, but we can see that the number of ratings is consistently going up. The number of reviews is going up. So maybe instead of selling 20 or 30 pairs a month, assuming that it sells 1,000 in total, this one might sell 10, but you're only competing with 4 other people. All right. So this is a reason why you kind of want to take a step back and take a more holistic view of the variations to be able to see which one you want to sell, and also know that it's not going to be the top 2 or 3 or 5 shoes that you may want to focus on. There's going to be plenty of opportunity out here in these kind of quote unquote slower moving shoes or variations that you might be able to take a look at and actually do really, really well with, just due to the number of competition, et cetera, and so on. Okay. So this is something that's really, really important. If you plan on selling anything with variations, that you absolutely want to take a look at this. Make sure that you can tell that a variation is selling. All right. And if we go over to this Nike Men's Air Monarch, this other dad shoe, you're going to see a lot of the same in the variations area. We already went over what all this data is, but you're going to want to make sure that you take a look and make sure that these ratings and these reviews kind of match. You can see these reviews look a little bit wonky here, and this could be because Nike is probably counterfeited a little bit more, and they kind of drop some reviews every now and again, or things could be orphaned and come back, and so they lose reviews and then they get their reviews back. There's all kinds of weird things that can go on, but you want to look for some consistency over time, and that's really the biggest thing that you can use to take away from the variations. This is going to be a listing where Amazon's not really on any of these shoes very often. This might be something that got lost in the warehouse, so now Amazon sells it. But again, you can do the exact same thing with this shoe. It sells a little bit slower, and we could figure that out by going and looking at the number of reviews and ratings over time and kind of extrapolate that data using the math we talked about in some of the prior videos. But then make sure to also look at the new offer count. So for example, I probably would stay away from this shoe here. I know it sells well, but there are 30 people selling this particular variation, but I could go to this shoe right here, the white metallic 9.5, and there's only 12 sellers. and it sells about 3% of 3% of the sales. Okay, so this would be a better buy, and it's priced higher. Okay, so a ton of data to look at variations. The other thing you're going to want to look at while we're on the topic of variations is, let's say, for example, that we want to sell this 9.5 size in white metallic silver. Not only will you want to make sure that this shoe sells on a consistent basis, but you're going to want to look at the price history and make sure that the price history is fairly consistent as well. If a price is kind of out of whack with all of the other shoes, it could be that could make it so that the shoe does not sell as well any longer. So if this shoe were, say this shoe, it was 65 and now it's kind of gone up to a little bit higher, 79.99. One thing you're going to want to make sure of is that this shoe isn't priced maybe double or triple the price, because it may not sell. It may just stop selling. That may be too much for the market to bear, and you don't want to base your price on your selling price on an inflated or bloated price that the market may not handle. So make sure that you're checking the price as well as the variation information on shoes and clothing and grocery items, beauty items. They all have variations. You want to make sure to take all of this into account when you're making a buying decision, so that you make a good buying decision and don't buy something based off of a bloated price or an unrealistic price. All right, that's about it for variations. It's not incredibly difficult, just another little data point you need to look at. Make sure to use the math from the prior video that we did when we talked about ratings and reviews and how you can take that and extrapolate that data into number of sales, combine it with this information, and you're going to be able to make some rock solid sourcing decisions. All right, if you have any questions, please make sure to let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video.